Mythony Grain Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Olga Bell record, Tempo. Brooklyn via Moscow, singer-songwriter and producer Olga Bell. She is now on what I believe is her third full-length studio album. You might also know her because she's performed in the past with indie pop titans, the Dirty Projectors. And this new album of hers is on One Little Indian Records. And listening to this thing, I have to admit I was not familiar with Olga Bell previously, but I was pleasantly surprised by this album. You know, much like the expression on her face on the front cover. Which, just in itself, even before I listened to any of the music, I found to be a breath of fresh air. It's rare that you actually see the artists featured on the album on the front cover looking like super happy or excited. You know, usually they're trying to look mean or mad or sexy or, you know, just like too cool to be bothered. Now, as far as the music on this thing, it is a synthetic smorgasbord of various shades of art pop and electronic music. It's kind of all over the place, but the stark production and Olga's very subtle, sort of subdued and intimate vocals are enough of a common thread to link all of these songs together. But the influences on this record, at least to me, did feel pretty clear throughout the project. Think of The Knife. So there's definitely a synth pop vibe on here. There's a techno vibe on here. There is an anthemic house track featuring vocalist SARA Lucas. And given that this thing is on One Little Indian Records, it's not surprising to find that there's a pretty healthy Bjork influence on this album too. And given how textured and kind of fractured the beats are on this project, I'd say there's a glitch pop vibe on here too. I would recommend this to Holly Herndon fans, maybe like Laurie Anderson fans. Now, even though the production is pretty puzzling a lot of the time, I think the tunes and the lyrics on this thing are relatively straightforward. On numerous tracks here, Olga Bell is pretty blunt about what she's singing about and blunt about her feelings too. You know, sometimes throwing a lot of expletives in there to sort of, you know, get her emotional message across. Right from the beginning of the album, the song Power User, which is typically a term put onto somebody who is very proficient in using or sort of fixing, updating computers. But instead she uses this term power user to describe someone who she seems to be in some kind of relationship with who is really manipulative and controlling. A bit of a taker, if you will. And there are a handful of other tracks on here that actually feature really catchy refrains, like the song Zone. Get in the zone, connect the shit on your own. Or the song Stomach It, where over and over we hear in the song kind of the mantra is, you know, you have a taste for it, but do you have the stomach for it? And then there's the song Doppio, which I enjoy quite a bit despite the fact that it is criminally short at just 2 minutes and change. But on this song, even Olga herself seems to be pretty pleased with how quirky and odd the tune, the layers of harmonized vocals, and the beat that she conjured here came out to be, because there are several moments on this cut where she's audibly giggling in the middle of her performance. And there's actually even a beat build up at one point in the track where it kind of sounded like for a moment, for a split second, she was gonna bust a rhyme, and I actually wish that ended up happening. You know, this record is left field, but it's fun, and Olga is audibly having fun when performing and sort of delivering this album, and it just doesn't take itself too seriously. We have, with the song Randomness, a hard-nosed techno beat, and with the lyrics here, Olga describes just the unpredictability of life, using terminology that kind of brings up imagery of just flashing lights and colors kind of overwhelming you. I also think kind of the weird, awkward, bassy synths complement the very rigid beat incredibly well. The closer, though, America, is kind of underwhelming. I would say with this track and with a handful of other tracks on here, there really is a lack of development. Like, there could have been more to these very odd productions. There could have been more to this album, as it's just under 40 minutes or so. I would say what this album does best is leaves me wanting more, like with almost every track. But there are a couple other issues that I have with the album. One being that Olga's vocals, I think, are a little one-dimensional. I just wish her performances were a little more lively on some of these cuts. It definitely would have changed the album up a bit, though I do appreciate the appearance from Sarah Lucas. She definitely gave the album a little bit more momentum when she popped onto the track. And most of the moments, though, when Olga does reach into her upper register or really kind of digs deep and ups the volume with her performances, she gets such a Bjork vibe coming from her vocals and from her inflections that it's kind of distracting. And I guess that brings me to my second issue, that occasionally she drowns in her influences, most notably on tracks like ATA or on Regular, which is a track that is anything but regular. And while it does start off sounding like a Bjork tune, I like how the song sort of develops and unravels as it moves forward and kind of loses itself and just turns into this really abstract electronic instrumental. I admired that about it. I think it's a decent record. If you're looking for some art pop, if you're looking for some abstract electronic music with some prominent vocals, I would definitely recommend this. Any of those artists that I mentioned previously, I think this is going to have something for you for sure. But again, I just feel like there's potentially more to what Olga is doing on this record, and I think she didn't fully explore every song and every option that she had. But those are really my only complaints. Generally, I think the album is very good, and Olga, through this record, has certainly become an artist who I look forward to hearing more from in the future. I'm feeling a decent to strong 7 on this thing. Transition! Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. Please don't die. Olga Bell, Tempo, good record. Give it a shot. Have a nice day. Drink your water, stay hydrated, eat your fruits and veggies. Hey, forever!